it's unexamined. It's not rigorous.
It's not rigorous. So
Right.
what would you consider rigorous evidence for
Okay,
God's
here's what
existence?
rigorous is. For a while, the best we could do was Newtonian physics because our machines just didn't measure it well. Until about 1900, we discovered the orbit of Mercury was wrong.
Brilliant, yeah.
Nothing. All right. It was Einstein who came up with the relativistic, and now we've got a new set of stuff.
Yes.
So reality keeps, that's rigorous. It did not defeat Newtonian physics. It added to it.
Right.
So I have friends who really believe, I'm a scientist, who really
Nice.
believe in the zodiac, right? And they go, well, it's not rigorous. He goes, what do you mean? I said, well, look, there's only 12 zodiac signs. They've always been like this. They're strangely hooked into this weird calendar thing that hasn't been accurate for a while. When we add in leap years, there's a leap century. It's hard to say whether you're truly a Virgo if you're born on the 21st of August, because back when those things happened, it could have been the 5th of July. I mean, really, it's been quite a bit
Could
of
have been,
delay. Oh, sure, and the Earth is spinning its rotation. Anyway, since you can't make more zodiac signs, why is there not a 13th to account for things we observe? Why aren't there more gods? There are. But when most people say God, I assume they mean like the Trinity and the Christian.
Well, we're talking about a presuppositional, intrinsic, transcendent being. So we're talking about the transcendent being that gave form to all life.
Yeah,
so
I
we're
call
talking
it
about the
isotopes.
first move of the Big Bang, basically.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
what we're essentially saying. I'm
Well-
not saying I believe in the Big Bang theory. I may or may not. Again, there's no evidence to the fact of it, is there? Like, we can't really see the Big Bang.
Unbelievable amount of evidence.
Well, according to scientists, there's a theory of a radiation,
Yeah, and
exposure to radiation that's
when you look
millions
back,
of years ago.
when you
that
look
we
back
can,
at the earliest galaxies,
can you
see
look back
missing-
at the early galaxies?
Yeah, they do.
So
And
can
what
you
they-
show me
what they-
any footage of the earliest galaxies?
How long do you have?
So you have literal life footage of the earliest galaxies.
Sure.
I'm not here to mock you. I'm just here to have a conversation.
yeah,
of course,
absolutely.
but
No,
for me,
look at
it's just
redshift, and it's true they can be off by about 10 or 15%, which
Right.
is amazing considering. When you look at the earliest galaxies, it lines up with what the physics predicts from the Big
in
Bang.
some instances. For example, with evolution now, do you believe in the theory of evolution?
Absolutely.
So I don't.
Is there a better one?
The reason why I don't believe in the theory of evolution because it's a presupposition of microevolution. It's the presupposition that amoebas that can't change their genetic DNA all of a sudden mutated into something else that mutated to something else over millions and millions of years.
Of course, the DNA changes.
But,
It's always
but did the kind change? Did the kind of the animal change? Because when we look at amoeba in the lab, when we witness amoeba in the lab, it doesn't change.
Billions of years. Look, here's how evolution works. Imagine it's all about DNA. DNA does not care if you go extinct or me or anything else.
Of course, yeah.
It's like having 8 billion players come into a casino.
That's natural
And they have-
selection, yeah. That's what you're telling me. Yeah.
In a sense.
Yeah.
But here's how evolution works. Because it's through the DNA. Suppose one of your players gets an ace.
Right.
All of a sudden, all other 8 billion players have an ace permanently.
Right.
And the next one, now you've got two. Eventually, you get 3 or 4 aces. Now, once in a while, someone shows up with a straight flush and kills half the people in there because they only got 3 aces instead of 4. And once in a while, the casino collapses and kills almost everyone. 1 or 2 people survive with those aces, and they keep going on. We discovered this almost, I want to say 100 years ago. Let's call it 60 to be fair. We had certain bacteria that only eat a certain kind of food, but we fed them something else, and all of a sudden, enzymes were turned on that they hadn't used perhaps in a billion years. But it's there.
Well, you're an interesting guy to speak to, and I would say this: look, what then do you do with genetic decay? Because genetic
Oh,
decay
we're all gonna
happens
die.
within species.
No, it shifts. The dinosaurs did not go extinct. They turned into birds, at least the successful ones.
But that's
the
an
rest of
assumption.
them did it hard.
That
As we
again
are
is
gonna
an
bite your
assumption.
heart.
We have not witnessed this within a lab. It's not testifiable. For example,
Absolutely.
amoeba never changes its kind. We've never witnessed bacteria being other than bacteria. It doesn't
Absolutely.
behave like
You can
anything
actually-
other than
you
bacteria.
can actually see evolution in the lab. MRSA infections?
So you can show me one
MRSA
kind.
infection.
One kind's turned into a completely different kind. You can show
Well,
me
you see it's shifting. It usually takes a little while. You can absolutely see
But the
bacteria.
assumption made from scientists like yourself.
Again,
so I'm
you
not-
might want to listen to my whole answer. But I am long-winded. You may interrupt me after 60 seconds.
Right, fair enough.
Right.
fair
No,
enough.
you can. In the modern labs, you can see things like bacteria turn into much more resistant bacteria because simply the other ones we wiped out. What's the thing they use for crops? It's really awful. Anyway, the way they got it was they just infected bacteria and it killed them all except for one, or 1 million, whatever. Which is, those are the ones they now use to make. It's called BT. It's a corn genetic splice that allegedly makes it more resistant to various things. but the
And
yields
that
are
can
much
happen
better.
due to adaptation, which I believe in, by the way. I believe
Well,
that
I mean,
I
the
believe
other
that
thing
microorganisms. So let me finish. I believe that organism can adapt, like human beings adapt to the environment they're in. That's just a fact, right?
I don't know
But
if
that's
adapt-
microevolution.
Yeah.
What is being espoused here is macroevolution. The idea over millions of years billions of years there was a change
Big
in
difference.
the substance of the being. And I'm saying that there is no physical proof of this. We
tons
have
of
not been
that.
shown this in the lab.
You gotta be kidding.
So you can show me a donkey turning to something other than a donkey.
Yeah, you got 10,000 years to watch a species change. You can't.
So that's an
But we can-
assumption. You see what you're doing there, and I don't want to.
No,
I don't
no.
want to attack you personally, but it's an assumption, mate. So what you're telling me is that you have a
I'm telling
religion,
you, it's a
and
slower process.
this is what, my friend, I was trying to
Slower
tell
process.
this
You can't talk
individual
to
here.
me like strong. You can't talk.
But this is what I'm saying.
Slower process
The
than you
problem
think
with
it is.
scientism is an assumption that eventually, over millions of years, we'll eventually get to the point where we understand all reality. I'm saying reality
Well,
has come into
That
form.
would be boring, wouldn't it?
But
they do
reality
make blind
has come
people
into
see, and they can read your
Right,
dreams.
but reality has come
Dude,
into
they can
form.
read your
Reality
dreams.
came 2,000 years ago. He died for your sins. That's reality. Reality showed himself
Well,
to us.
I'm a Jew, so my guy died a few thousand years earlier. What can I say? And then just to make sure they tried to get.
Oh,
the
you're a
rest-
Jew. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah,
That's
sure it is.
interesting.
I grew up in Golders Green.
Wow. So you are theistic then?
I am what?
You're theistic then?
One more time.
You're theistic. You know,
Oh,
you
gosh, no,
presuppose
no, I
a
don't
God.
believe any of that.
Oh, that's interesting. So
But
your
it's
guy
all-
Moses, did he believe in God?
I hope so. He fucking died. No, he lived a long time before he died. Didn't
Yeah,
he?
yeah. He lived a long time.
Yeah.
But he believed in God. He gave
sure
his
he
life
did.
to God.
I'm sure he
He
did.
gave his entire life to God.
Sure.
Why?
Well, it
Why
sounds
would?
like you're doing the same.
But
Good for
the
you.
thing is, the reason why you're a Jew is because
I was
before,
born that way, I didn't ask.
centuries before, in the timeline, Moses and others came to the presupposition that God exists. Obviously, the Israelites
Right.
condemn
Yeah.
their God continuously,
Yeah. Oh,
but
yeah,
yeah,
sure,
they
sure
came to
they
the conclusion there was a
Sure,
God.
they did. Look that.
So I'll say even the moral ethics that you espouse, even the things you consider to hold true,
Well, I haven't said
they
anything
come from a
morally
God.
yet. I haven't said anything.
I'm
morally.
not saying you
Just
do.
technically.
I'm not saying you have, right?
Right.
But I would presume that if I said to you that murder is wrong, you would agree that murder is wrong, right?
Sure it is.
Right, but
I mean,
why
it
would-
feels
why would you-
intrinsically bad? Because it just feels intrinsically bad.
It feels intrinsically bad. But what about a rapist or a murderer who thinks he feels intrinsically good
Well,
to
it's
murder?
intrinsically bad for the rest of us, and we do have our limits. So.
What's the rest of us? You don't speak for
Those
me.
who
You don't
feel
speak
the
for
same-
her. You don't speak for anybody
those
else
who
here.
don't
You
feel the
just-
same way.
So those who don't feel the same way are superior to those who do. That's a bit of a Nazi statement. Imagine.
I never
Like,
used the word superior.
But
If you're going to be
it
a better
seems
interviewer, try not to put words.
it seems like you're a moral supremacist. That's what I'm suggesting.
No,
You know
I
why?
just don't believe in God.
So would you say that somebody who doesn't
I don't.
murder,
Do you believe-
would you say that somebody who doesn't murder is better than somebody who does?
It depends on how good they are.
Okay, good based upon what ethic?
Well, if you're Hannibal Lecter, I mean, come on.
Yeah, so is he good or is he not? That was
He's
the
awesome.
question.
Such
He was
a good-
awesome.
he's
So he was a
awesome.
good man.
No, but
Like,
you
and
can't
so I'm
have
talking
look,
about
you
the
can't have
character
people-
was a
you
good
can't have
man
people
because he
like
ate
that
people.
running around society. Look at how many people are getting along. The assumption here, no one's going to get really upset. This gentleman kindly bowed out.
But that's not the
You know,
assumption I'm making. I'm not stating that human
It's all
beings
assumption.
can't know good.
I assume the plane's not coming out of the air.
Yeah, but I'm not stating that all human beings cannot know good. I'm stating without the moral ethic of God, you can't make sense of good.
Let's focus.
Good is just arbitrary.
So what you're saying is pretty much, if it weren't for God, we might not have morals. Is that what it is?
I'm saying without God, you wouldn't understand what morals are. You understand the basis of morals. So the presupposition you would have is that, oh, well, my morals are good because I feel they're good. But then again, the rapist can say the same thing, and that's the problem.
Well, those are weird people. They should all die.
They should all die according to your ethic, but
no,
they may
people-
consider
people
you
have-
should die and they
people
should be allowed to
even-
rape. So
well,
what's
no
wrong?
doubt.
So
There's more of us than them, so
how
they
do we
die.
discern which difference there is? Is it the theist that's right or is it the non-theist that's right in this case?
Well, if you have to divide things in two, there are two kinds of people. Those who divide them in two and those who don't.
So we shouldn't make distinctions between good and evil then. Is that what you're
I
saying?
mean, suppose I was like
If we did that.
duper religious. I assume when you say God, you mean the Jesus one, right?
I mean historical Jesus one, the actual God of Israel.
Well, he wasn't God of Israel.
Yeah, he was. He claimed to be God of Israel. All throughout the Bible. And I could
Didn't
show
work
you.
out so well for him.
It didn't work out well for him.
But,
But then again, he rose on the
mean,
third day and he did what he fulfilled to do, which was defeat the devil and death, which you haven't done because you are a Jew, but I can't do because I'm just a man, but Jesus Christ did on the cross.
I can't do that because I'm a Jew.
I can't do that because I'm a man. You didn't hear what I said. You just heard the word Jew and just got you don't have to be
You got that
defensive
right.
about it.
Can you say it again, please?
I
My,
said-
my hearing's very bad.
Okay,
I'm old.
so I said Jesus Christ defeated death and sin at the cross. You and I can't do that.
He didn't defeat. Oh, I see. Yes, that's right. I think a lot of other religions had an idea of defeating death. They really did.
So which ones?
All of them, right up to Christ.
All of them have so they
I
understand
mean,
what death is
a
intrinsically in order to
little-
understand
What little I know about Judaism, I don't think we have much of a heaven, or it's just not that important. But they do say you go to heaven in the body you have as you were killed, which sounds bad for those who were killed in war and stuff.
According to the Bible, at least the Torah, right, Sheol is a place where individuals
Well, we don't call it the Bible.
Well, you don't call it the Bible, we call it the Bible. I'm pointing to
Fair enough.
something that I know of. Like,
okay.
You may call it the Tanakh, that's fine, but
No,
I'm saying
I
like,
think the Torah is what they call it. I don't know. I'm not.
It doesn't talk about heaven in the.
yeah, it doesn't talk about it.
There's not much heaven. Yeah, we don't put much. But there's clearly karma, which is what part of this ignorance. It's not Hindu. It's what's the one before it? Buddhism.
Buddhism not karma, Hindu's karma. Or I think it's either Sikh or Hindu.
I don't know. You could be right. I'm not a scholar.
I'm
I don't
not
really
a scholar
know.
either, mate. I'm just
Yeah, I
right.
know. they had an idea. They had an idea of heaven too, and what you do on this earth carries through
But
to,
they don't
to
understand.
your next life.
They don't understand sin and death. They don't understand God's moral law that transcends us. Every time we
Well,
decide not to follow that
I think
we are
they
leading
did
ourselves into
understand
death.
Sin and death. I just think they had a different take on it. Here's the one thing that Jesus did that no other. Basically, the Catholic Church has copied every holiday, every tradition, blah blah blah. Fine, great, perfect.
I'm not
Imitation-
a Catholic, mate.
That's all right, fair enough. Sorry, I'm about to be bombed, but I'm already bombed.
I mean,
but
well, it's not me who's
but what
bombing you right now.
no, what Jesus did, and it was so perspicacious that he actually was able to go, what you do to your brother, you do to yourself. No one had ever said anything like that. And he must have foreseen the fact that the world population at the time was what? 100 million? It's now 8 billion. And he's right. What you do to your brother, you do to yourself.
Exactly.
That's the only thing about Christianity I like. And the rest,
Well, I'll say that
the rest,
the basis.
it needs more, for me, it needs more isotope, trace element chemistry, and some physics.
Well, I'll say that's an assumption of naturalism, which you presuppose. Again,
Not presuppose,
like,
you measure it.
God
It's
does
realer-
not.
it's
God,
realer than your
as
stuff.
you know, as a Jew, right? The Old Testament clearly says,
that
right?
true?
My
I have no
people,
idea.
my people
Well, Jesus,
perish.
you sure,
Let
why
me
not?
finish.
No, sorry.
My people perish because of a lack of knowledge. That's what the Old Testament
Because of a
says.
what?
Because of a lack of knowledge.
Lack of-
My people perish because of a lack of knowledge.
I thought it
So
was because of knowledge.
no, it's because of a lack of knowledge.
That was Adam,
Right, so
someone
the
else.
God of Israel does not want us to just walk through life blindly. He wants us to do science. In fact, the earliest scientist, René Descartes, which you would know of, right, was a theist. Right, Galileo Galilei was a theist.
Yeah, they
Modern
locked him up
science,
for 10
modern
years for that.
science,
He may have
modern
been a theist, they
scientism
still locked him
is
up.
built upon the presupposition of theism, which is interesting because most scientific-minded people
Well, it
just
was.
assume that God doesn't exist.
It was.
You're standing on the shoulders of giants
After-
and spitting on those giants.
After about 1840, in the Age of Reason, which is earlier, people started looking away from it. It just wasn't popular to say God sucks. You just can't do that.
Well, it was just niche and
It's
full.
not terribly popular to have those hats either, and it wouldn't be great if I wore that really cool
I'm not
old
interested
Roman-
in popularity. I'm interested in what's true. My friend, popularity means
Well,
nothing. The
you're-
Bible even
you're
tells
driving-
us the apostles not very popular with the
Right.
people of
So-
his generation.
So you're deriving a lot of truth from something written down some time ago.
No, I'm deriving it from an historical text, the Bible.
Yeah, I get it.
Right.
Your evidence, as you pointed out.
The evidence, is,
Yeah.
which are many,
Right.
including archaeological evidence, is
There's a bunch.
that Jesus Christ existed. If he existed, then the possibility that he was alive is great, of course.
Yeah.
The possibility that the accounts told of him were obviously nearer to truth than they were before.
Could have
because
been.
could have been,
Hard
right?
to say.
But we have a
Hard
could have
to
been
say.
right now. So then what do we do with that could have been? If he died
Well,
and
I'd-
rose again,
I'd
and a
prefer-
ton of
I'd prefer to measure it.
right, but if he died and rose again, and a ton of Orthodox Jews who would have had the presupposition
Right.
your parents would have had,
I want you to think about it.
decided to follow Jesus Christ, a man, going from worshiping the God of Israel to a man who came to be God. If they decided to
thought
do
he-
that, then there is something very special about this
he
man,
ever
Christ Jesus.
Was he ever considered a god? I always thought he was the son of God.
He's
I
always
really
been
thought.
considered.
Is that
God.
right? Okay,
Yeah.
that's fair enough.
The Son of God is a ontological term. You know what I mean by ontology, right?
Well, I do know what it is.
Right. So it's the study of being. So it's his
Well,
being
study
that's
of
shared with God in the
continuation
divinity.
is what it is.
Yeah.
Here's what it is. You can almost look at science as a way of exploring God. Now I see people and they
I love that definition, by the way. Brilliant.
well
That's what
they,
Renegade
they,
calls.
they devote their lives to God. A lot of people do that. I suspect you're on that path. Well, good for you if that's what you want.
Yeah.
And I would say the same with scientists. Isn't it just getting to know God better?
I mean, here's the thing. The
I
thing
mean,
is,
we observe all sorts of things, and people used to say, "Well, this is that, and this is the way God made it, and here's
Right.
the reason." But now that we've got better equipment, why, we still can't solve it.
But even in
maybe
Rupert-
God wants us to
Right.
come and find him,
He
solve
does, he
these
does.
things.
He does.
So that's what it is.
But the
So
thing is,
maybe
Rupert
there's-
Sheldrake,
maybe
in
there's-
his book,
maybe there's two routes.
right? But
Your
Rupert
route and my
Sheldrake,
route.
Rupert Sheldrake, in his book, he's not even a Christian. He's an agnostic, right?
I know he is.
But he claims there's 10 dogmas that are holding back science. One of these dogmas are the fact that all things must be discovered empirically, that we can't use philosophy or anything else to discover what truth is.
Well, that is the difference between science and philosophy.
Right, but what
by definition.
What Rupert Sheldrake is saying, if we open up the avenues to discover what God is, then we'd have a better chance of advancing in terms of science.
Yes, and I think that's what science is. You got it
I
backwards.
don't believe modern science is that.
No, you got it backwards. Science is the way to open up a new way into God.
I don't believe the dogmas, the empirical dogmas set upon scientists are helping them. As long as they have these constraints, one of the constraints is materialism. Materialism is the idea that all things in the world are functioning on a mind level, and that our brains are telling us these
Materialism,
things.
I always thought that was some form of capitalism, but all right.
Maybe it is. Maybe it is. But that's basically materialism in a nutshell. I probably
scientists-
said it not in a very
Scientists are
laissez-faire way.
Scientists are not held back by much, I'll tell you. We do cool things like invent the bomb or modify organisms to cause interesting diseases.
But the
we also do
presupposition
things-
still is materialism. That's the problem.
Oh, well, the presupposition is if you can't prove it and show to someone else, either you've done too many drugs or it probably doesn't
But
exist.
that's the presupposition of materialism.
Look,
if I can't show
everything's
it,
a
your
presupposition.
and here's the thing that I'll ask him as well.
Aren't you
Here's the thing.
presupposing that the stuff you're reading
I'm
is
presupposing
correct?
that God is true. The reason why I'm
Right,
doing that
right.
is because it makes sense ontologically and physically.
Good for you.
It makes sense.
Not much to me.
It
but
makes a
all
lot
right.
of sense.
Well,
Because
it
here's the
only
thing:
covers
if you
2,000
don't
years.
believe in a God, you
I
don't
know.
have any moral standard of logic, reason, or even morals themselves. You don't have any standards of people.
That's a little insulting.
But you don't.
But
If
I
I
do.
say rape is wrong, I'm applying this to the Christian ethic, to love my neighbor as myself. When
Well,
you,
I
when
say
not
rape
you,
is
I'm not
wrong.
saying you. But if a
I don't-
non-theist says that,
why am I not allowed to say something is wrong just because I don't
no,
believe in
because
some
I haven't
human
finished.
being?
Then you can answer. But
Yeah,
anyway,
sure.
if a non-theist says
I
it,
should go on for
they're
a bit, I gotta
they're presupposing that something transcends them. They're presupposing a law of fairness,
Oh, that would be
as
nice,
C.S.
wouldn't
Lewis
it?
puts it.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Maybe it would.
I mean, seriously, I've often wondered,
it is
what
nice
if I
because it's
fucking
true.
when I die? That would be pretty interesting to meet a God of any sort.
I mean, how do you know you won't
And
be?
what-
This
and
is
what-
the intrinsic question even scientists were positing well before you and I were born.
If I meet the other opposite gods, I'll pretty much know that God is true. It's the physics law of supersymmetry. For every this, there's a that. So if there's a positive
yeah.
God that'll take me to heaven, and I missed
So
it.
a process
I'm
will take you to heaven?
If there's a positive
it's just a
God,
process.
If I've done positive, I said.
It's not how the machine came about.
No,
That's
no.
just the
But if I-
process
but
of the
if- but
machine.
if when I
You
get
tell me the
turned-
process, but you're going to tell me how it came
What I'm
about.
saying is when I get turned down and go to hell, I would have known there's a heaven.
Well, here's
Because
the
there
thing.
can't be a hell without a heaven.
But here's the thing: this is
Well, I'm starting to
heaven,
think it's
hell.
right here in London.
Hell
No,
is
that's not true.
so hell is
It's
devoid
actually in
of
the
God's
fifth
love.
in France. I'm sorry, say
Right?
again?
You're going on a bit. Hell is devoid of God's love. So hell, in a sense, is not some fiery brimstone where Satan's just with a pitchfork, just pinching people in the arse. That's not what hell is, and that's what we as Christians believe hell is. No, hell is devoid of God. So the grace of God to have the sun, to have the stars, to have the moon, to even have a happy life on this earth, that's grace of God. Without that, you'll be devoid of love, even reason or logic. You won't have a mind. You'll be dulled.
So are you someone anti-science of some sort? Or
No,
just-
I'm not anti-science.
Okay, because,
I just believe science has to get rid of dogmas.
Has to get rid of what?
Get rid of its dogmas, the 10 empirical dogmas. If you'd like, I could.
We've named one. Impress me, name two more.
Right,
You said
off the
10.
top of my head,
Yeah.
Don't know
Then
them.
don't use the word 10. Then don't
there
do
are
that.
10. If you read Rupert Sheldrake's book, so it's called the
Do none.
Science Delusion.
Memorize them, blow people away. Trust
So
me.
have
on
you
this.
read the Science Delusion?
No, I haven't, but I can tell you 10 ways to make a carboxylic acid.
That's
And
fine.
and
That
and
means
you
nothing.
need
It doesn't
to-
impress me.
No,
it just
it
tells
doesn't.
me how the machine functions. It doesn't tell me why the machine functions.
Might
Again,
save-
that's the problem with
might-
scientism.
Might save your life.
Might do, but what's my life matter if there is no eternity? If there's no being, I'm going to die anyway. What's it matter?
Well, you get to come back on Earth and figure out an 11th way to make carboxylic acid.
Come back on Earth. So you believe we're going to come back? So you're Buddhist then?
Fuck no, not if I have a choice.
Okay.
Hell to the
Can
no.
I ask you a question?
Yeah.
You mean
that's what
you guys aren't working together?
Yeah.
Oh, you are?
we're evil Christians working
No, no,
together
no, no,
to
I thought-
destroy your brain.
She just happened to come in. I just thought she just happened to
I
come
wanted
in.
to ask you, who invented DNA?
No one invented DNA.
No one, so nothing created DNA.
Not true. Early experiments and conditions on Earth were likely. You had a lot of bubbles. When you watch the sea foam, you get these bubbles, and bubbles are fascinating because they maintain. the tension on the molecules is huge, so you get a huge fast reaction, and they can separate.
But who created the molecules? Because everything you see that's man-made as a creator
As far
and
as
as
we know.
builders, but when it comes to nature, you say that it comes from nothing. DNA, I don't need to be a scientist to know that it's perfectly made. You need maths.
Do actually.
But who invented maths then? Maths is in nature. Who invented maths? Maths doesn't come from human beings. Mathematics is in nature already. So there has to be. So there has to be an inventor.
It's like paying more tribute to God. It's just going, God, you're so incredible. I can't believe you figured this out. We're trying to put numbers down, and sometimes it works.
No, we don't believe that God figures anything out. He created the world with this purpose.
So you
mathematics is etched into the very nature of the universe.
Don't you want to know him? Don't you want to know God?
Well, mathematics is etched into the nature of the universe. That's why we can presuppose maths.
It's just a description. Like a painting, like the Giotto frescoes. It's just a painting.
But there's a reason why that painting exists. That's what we're saying. There's a reason why that painting exists. It comes from an artist, a great artisan, a ruler.
We want to.
You want to say that?
Offer you,
I love one. So
even
it's just a copy of the Gospel
to
of John.
honor
If you
your
want to have it.
Jewish heritage, because we believe in a Jewish Messiah. This is the Gospel
Oh,
of
that's
John.
nice.
No, we're not anti-Jewish, mate. We love Jewish people, man. We love everybody, man. It is what it is.
No,
I don't.
You don't love
read
everybody?
why-
No.
That's a bit sad.
I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say you can read your ancestors. Why some accepted him and why some rejected him. So that's
That is true.
a piece of history for you to read on. That's part of your heritage.
Yeah, maybe.
And you're a very intelligent man. It was nice. It was honestly nice having a conversation with you because we could have this nice back and
Dan
forth.
is my name.
Say it again.
Dan?
Dan. My name's John. By the way,
John?
you know that John the Apostle.
Amy?
We're not the same one.
Sorry. I figured you were cameraing and,
It's
Well,
brilliant.
cheers. I wish you all the luck, but
thank
in the
you.
scheme of things, it's little, but
And I hope you have a chance to read the Gospel.
I'm pretty sure he's got your back.
Yes.
Maybe not so much, but yeah, definitely.
Wow. Okay, see you later, bro. Take care. Do you want me to speak? Okay. Oh, wow. How are you doing, man? I haven't seen you in a while. Can I just say something? Okay, so the problem with atheistic thinking is it presupposes a naturalistic worldview. The idea that all reality is basically based upon our sense data. So what we observe must be what is true. Well, then that's an assumption. What you're observing is validly true. But how do you come to the conclusion of that assumption being true? There has to be a presupposition that itself is true. That's a bias and that's a dogma. In fact, according to most scientific studies, most atheists have a dogma. They have a bias within themselves. They are more biased than non-believers. Sorry, they're more biased than theistic believers. Sorry. So it's ironic that they will say to us that we're brainwashed by religion when they, in fact, are more biased within their thinking, not even enough to accept the truth of this worldview or the truth of the way the world functions. The individual that I was speaking to was a scientist, right? But notice how he couldn't give us a reason why we have monkey to man evolution. He couldn't give us a valid ontological and physical proof of this being, one being turning into another being, or one kind turning into another kind. This was a scientist, my friends. Why should anybody believe in atheistic evolution if we've got one guy who's a scientist claiming it is what it is? We can presuppose that creation. Sorry, you want to have a conversation?
Just a quick thing. The coolest thing I ever read was at Harvard Square about 30 years ago. And the man was deeply religious, but he's also a mathematician.
Yeah.
He goes, if you look at the 7 days of creation, he goes, look, that's not how God's math works, which is why I was saying that math is a way to observe and appreciate God's whatever it is, right? And he goes, no, look, if you look at math, especially the stuff that helps describe real things that happen, x squared, two things equal, a constant, blah, blah. He goes, this one's e to the minus something, 1 minus e, actually that's radioactivity, but it's e to the something. He goes, when you plug in the right number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, just the first arrow you get, the first day of heaven goes from 4.5 billion to about 3.2, which was a major epic. The next one's shorter to 2.1. The next one's shorter.
According to a scientific assumption where there's no physical proof.
Just simple, straight math. Here's the thing that's fascinating.
The thing is, there's still a presupposition that there's millions of years between now and...
This is what it is.
It's just an assumption. It's a religion.
No.
You're basically the average Muslim coming up to me and saying, oh, Allah is God.
I'm just telling you, I can't even get to the point. The point is, every one of his, I just put in day one for day one, throw it into this equation. Then I put in the number 2 and throw it into the equation. And he comes up with every major epic in the past, almost to the 9, like right to the letter.
What's so like the Epic of Gilgamesh? You heard of that?
A geologic epic.
Geologic epic. So you think a giant world flood that's literally ripped through the entire Earth is not a geologic epic?
We do have evidence of very major floods. We have evidence of full global glaciations. The whole Earth was an
I
ice ball.
believe, even when you look at the Grand Canyon, and when you look at the way that's formed,
Well, that took a little
something
time.
evidently ripped through that.
No, that's a slow uplift. It was fast.
So
Couple
why is
million
there
years.
fossils from animals that should be on low ground found buried at the top there? Right? There's
Because
animals that were in
because-
other countries
That's right.
found literally fossilized in the crevice of the Grand Canyon. That makes no logical sense unless it was put there by a rush of water.
No, it was put there when it was a sea up to 1 billion years
So
ago.
when we find those same animals, right away, fossilized,
you find
fossilized,
clam
and
shells
they
at
are
the top of
pregnant.
Mount Everest.
These are pregnant fossilized animals and various other things, even animals that have been in the movement of action. So
They died.
They died in the movement of action, right?
Well,
There must have something cataclysmic, and sudden must have happened
sometimes
for
that's
them to
true.
get up from the lowest part of
No,
ground
no,
all
no,
the way up to the Grand
again,
Canyon.
again, rocks move; they go up and down.
Yeah, I understand rock formation.
All right. Well, then how is it not possible for something all the way down there to be at the top of Everest? You find fossils
Not in
up
an
there.
instant. Not in an instant. That would have taken thousands of years, or
It's
even millions of years.
More like 20 million.
Right, fine.
Yeah.
But it would have taken millions of years, right?
Right, sure.
So if we have an
Right.
animal that's been caught in action or pregnant all of a sudden where it shouldn't be in the Grand Canyon, that's a big problem for the idea that there was no global flood.
It's caught in rocks that have that age, and then you see that animal no more, like a Shakespeare play. It struts and
aged-
frets.
That one animal just aged, like it just stayed in this position for millions of years.
I'm agreeing with him, but I haven't done my homework like he has. I'm agreeing with him,
Yeah.
but I haven't done my homework like he has. Have you heard of James Tour?
No.
He's-
I'm poorly read.
He's a brilliant guy. He's an evolutionary scientist, but he doesn't believe in evolution.
That's weird.
He wants,
Yeah, I know.
he wants scientists to explain the evolution that came up to creating a living cell. So before you go to biological animals, the first living cell, how did that evolve?
From bubbles. I mean, really, it was just a matter of bubbles.
It was bubbles, dude.
It was bubbles.
It was bubbles, bro. I'm gonna turn this into a meme, dude. I'm gonna...
or it was God. If it was God, isn't it kind of cool that that's how he started?
But he's
cool,
asking
right?
as a scientist. He's a Christian, but he's asking as a scientist. How do you explain? And like I said, I haven't done my homework, but how do you explain the complexity of the simplest cell? The complexity. How does that come into existence?
The simplest cells,
He's asking
nothing more
scientists.
than a few chemicals stuck inside an oily bubble.
Well,
Really?
he's asking, like I said, he's asking scientists the question.
So there's no deoxyribonucleic acid within
Starch is
that.
actually RNA through a series of interesting, they say maybe our 3-letter code was frozen in place. It's hard to get too many combinations to do the things you need to do with the 2-letter code. The 3-letter code is a bit better. So there may have been 4-letter codes, but they didn't survive.
Right, so can I ask you a question?
Again, the casino fell apart before the 4 aces could be
Fair
played.
enough. But can I ask you a question? So the
complexity.
Cambrian explosion, right? The Cambrian.
James Tour.
My friend.
If I could-
so can I ask you a
what?
question?
Yeah, sure.
The Cambrian explosion, right? So it's the assumption during the Cambrian explosion, a rock was hit by lightning, and then all of a sudden there was just a explosion of things.
No, I've never heard of that.
There was explosion of variation of
No,
species, right?
I've never heard of a rocket.
So
by
do you
lightning.
know what the Cambrian explosion is?
Yeah, about 543 million years ago,
Right.
all of a sudden 5 major phyla occur.
And
One of the
how
reasons
did that
given-
happen?
And one of the reasons given for that was just after the global ice age, you have a lot of buildup of CO2, which is what's happening now.
And
it
then
couldn't-
lightning hit a rock.
No, well, lightning always hits rocks. No, which is
that's
very
literally
important. No, that's very
according
important. It's very important because that's how you get nitrogen compounds that eventually lead to amino acids, then give you DNA. And we find amino acids.
So that's
in
that again. That's the
meteorites. We
assumption
find them in meteorites.
that is there's just all these phylogenetic trees.
You know the
There's
Pope said-
differentiation in life
You know what the
because a lightning hit a bit of rock, and you want me to believe in that rather than the God of Israel who gave literally life to everything. I would rather believe that God created everything. To be fair, it makes more sense.
Boss, if it's comfortable, I think that's great.
It's not about my comfort, it's about the truth. Because honestly, it's your discomfort. If I'm telling the truth and you're lying, it's your discomfort, not mine.
I understand the concept of discomfort. I feel like I'm getting familiar with it right now.
I mean, you came over here. If you were very uncomfortable with me, sir.
No, I
mean-
wanted to tell you the really cool thing about the math and the guy plugging it in and actually just being religious and going, look, but I actually came up with what happened in the past as we know it. Kind of a cool way to look at God, I think.
It's an
Why
interesting way to look at God.
I mean, for a while you weren't even allowed to paint images of him.
yeah,
Right.
iconoclasm.
And then, well, you can't do
I
that.
don't believe you
Then-
can anyway.
then-
It breaks the Deuteronomy 20. It breaks the
Okay, well, they
third
decided since
commandment.
people didn't read, and they still don't,
Second.
we needed images. And so people tried to go through the images. What does God look like? What are the scenes? Well, blah, blah, blah. And at first they were kind of, in heaven, and then they got more realistic. The Renaissance. Who's to say math isn't just looking at God and putting a little better paint on it?
Well, for us, it's just that Jesus Christ became the idol that Israel needed.
And we see lots of
Because
different images,
Israel
right?
themselves followed after other idols. That's why the God of Israel cast them out. Did you know that?
No, I don't.
They were following idols on themselves, stones, statues,
Yeah,
statues.
I know they didn't like.
So
much.
they were following idols of their own design. So
Yeah.
Jesus Christ became that living idol, showing us the true revelation of God and the true moral ethic that all men must adhere to. Because it's for the betterment of our souls. We were created to be connected to the wellspring of life. If we're not connected to the wellspring of life, we cannot function properly.
Well, if you're not connected to life, you are in a lot of trouble.
I'm saying the wellspring of life, not life.
That one.
We're
I don't know
experiencing
about
life
God-
now.
I don't know about
but
God.
the wellspring
When
of
you're
life.
alone, that would be very comforting.
Do you know what a
imagine.
wellspring is?
Yeah.
So the very source of life. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So if you're not connected.
Conphilociation.
So
Greeks had
there
it.
is more life
But they did have a
within
lot
the
of
wellspring
gods.
of life. There's more. I don't know what he's saying.
You've been to the Comfort Museum. Is it Comfort Museum?
No idea.
Yeah.
I know I'm not going in here.
The Comfort Museum.
It honestly was good speaking to you again. We gotta go. It honestly was fascinating speaking to you. It's nice to speak to a scientist once.
You gonna post this somewhere?
Yeah, on our channel. You got anything you want to say?
No, I'm vain enough. I want to see what I look like.
All right, fair enough.